How about we finish our set of fireplace tools by making a little rack with some hooks to hang them from. We have our three-piece set of tools, and I've laid them out in what I think is a nice even spacing so that they'll look good hanging on the wall. What I end up with, going from center to center of the rings, is about 10 inches. That spacing isn't absolutely critical, so there's 5 inches between tools. Now I cut a piece of bar for this. I've done some fiddling and sliding these back and forth. So I decided what I want to see. And I decided I want the bar at 18 inches. I'll probably come 2 inches in from each end here and put mounting holes. This is a little narrower than standard stud spacing, but I don't think this set of tools is too heavy to hang on drywall anchors, as long as whoever buys it hangs it on drywall anchors, or bolts it to masonry or to a solid wood wall, such as in a log house or a timber frame house. And then our hooks to hang the tools on will rivet right there. And I made 3 different styles of hooks here to look at. These 2 are made out of flat bar, and these are not finished hooks, they're just sort of test pieces. This one I put a nice round pad on. This one I just tapered the bar. Both aren't bad hooks for a lot of purposes, but what I actually ended up liking best, this is a hook made out of 3/8 round bar. I think it looks a little bit better with the set. It's not quite as long a hook. I used the round pad feature, and I think it'll look pretty darn good with a 1/4 inch rivet through it to hold it on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to make 3 of these hooks, and don't feel like you got to stop there. Remember, part of what we're doing is making Christmas gift ideas. Just these hooks aren't bad gift ideas, and maybe we'll do a video just on the simple J-hook and make several varieties of J-hook just to stimulate your imagination a little. For our hooks, I'm just going to start with a length of 3/8 round bar. I'm not going to worry about cutting them into individual lengths at this point. You certainly could do that. They're probably about 5-inch lengths, but I'm not too worried about that. What I want is a length after the taper. So I will measure them and cut them, put the taper on, measure and cut after the taper is done. And that looks like that's right at 6 inches after I put the taper on. And that's really what I'm concerned with. And this gives me a nice bar to hold on to that's long enough I can still work with it in the gas forge. Now I'm going to make these pretty quick. We've already discussed tapering bars in past videos. We know that we want to go square. Even though it's a round bar, we're going to draw it out as a square bar. Then we're going to go to octagon. Then we're going to round it up. I have enough heat left in that tip to put my little curly Q on there. And I probably don't have enough heat to cut it off, but I have enough heat to mark it. Now I'm going to go ahead, now that I know how long I want that, I'm going to bend the hook. I cool the curly Q off just in case I hit it. I'm going to bend my hook while I've got something to hold on to here, and that's a lot easier. And I think I've got enough heat here to go ahead and cut this. And then we'll do the other end of the hook. I'm going to do some half-faced blows here. I want to set about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch over the edge of the anvil. And then use the peen to spread this. And back to the face. And that gives us our basic hook, just needs a hole. So we're going to hot punch a hole through this. Try not to drop it on the floor. So that is a completed hook. All of the forge work is done. That's about how fast I would typically do these if I wasn't playing for a camera here. But let's take a little bit closer look and look at some of the details so you can actually see what I'm doing there. We have 3/8 round bar. Draw it out right at the edge of the anvil so your hammer doesn't hit the anvil face. Draw it out square. You get it down to a nice thin point. Remember to rotate it 90 degrees between hits at that stage. Then go down to an octagon, and then we'll round it up. So there's a nice little taper. The tapered portion of that is now about 2 1/4 inches long. Now we want to put our little curly cue in there. Very gentle here. In fact, this 3-pound hammer is a bit of overkill. We've got to be real careful and try and get a nice, graceful little curl there that looks nice and is round and not a series of little flats and kinks. You've probably noticed I use this little hook ruler for a lot of measurements. It's a handy thing, but it isn't vital and it isn't very traditional. And most of the time in the shop, the actual measurement makes no difference. But getting repeatable parts does make a difference. So a big pair of calipers like this can be quite useful. Measurement doesn't matter. I'm going to mark that, and then I'm going to get it hot again, and we're going to bend the hook, and then we'll finish cutting it off. Cool off the end, just in case you hit it. That isn't an excuse to hit it on purpose, though. If you have a kind of a controlled heat, and it's not hot way back, this goes a lot smoother. You end up with a much nicer looking hook. So there's my hook. I like that better. Yeah. Now we'll cut it off. So now that we know just exactly where we want to cut it, the hook is done. We'll cut that off. Don't cut all the way through and hit your hardy. That's bad on the hardy, bad on the hammer. And we'll trim that off. This goes back at okay, about 3/4 of an inch over the edge of the anvil with the hook facing down. Get a nice half-face blow and then spread it with your cross peen. Start in the middle and work your way out both sides. Then you can go back to the face. Now you want this to be round right from the anvil. If it's not, you can clean it up with a file. Now when we punch this hole, if we start punching here, I'm going to have to get this hot again after I talk about this. We start punching here, and then we have to flip that over to punch through. Our shoulder is going to be in our way. So we're better off to start right at the edge of the anvil with the shoulder down and then flip it up to the face side to finish the punch from the face side. So with the shoulder down, I'm going to start my punch, try and get it centered. It'll look better. It's easy to chase this off the anvil. Now I'm actually using a bolt header as my bolster. Doesn't matter. It's got a round hole in it that's the right size. Flatten that back up. And of course, as always, you can drill that hole at the drill press or the hand drill. You could use a mechanical punch, an iron worker, hydraulic punch, whatever you got. But punching it hot at the anvil is fast, it's easy, it's traditional, you learn more, and you don't have to wait for this to cool to go over to the drill press and drill it that way. So there's two hooks. There's our third hook. When we were looking at this earlier, we decided we wanted our bolts at 2 inches from the end. It's 18 inches long, so 9 inches is center. We're going to want one hook there. And we wanted 5 inches off for each of the other hooks. So those are our marks. We want to center punch these so we can find them again. So center punch them good and deep. And then we'll go take this to the fire. On back plates like this, I frequently like an upset end. So I'm going to push that back and flare it out just a little bit to give it a nice gentle upset. And I think it's easiest done in the vise. I don't want to upset too much of it. around the corners. And I want to bring it all towards the front, so I'm going to use kind of glancing blows here. That's kind of what we're going for at this point. That's going to take a little cleaning up at the anvil to get it all flat and in line across the back. Another very convenient way to do this is just to heat this with a torch while it's already in the vise. This does give you a more controlled heat and will keep it from bending forward quite so much and just allow the upset to do what we want the upset to do. That should actually make a neater upset, in my opinion. Not necessary. You can do it all at with the forge. And we'll go clean up that first end and see if we can make it look as pretty as that is. Just kind of want to straighten that back up a little bit. Refine that upset just a little bit. This isn't something that has a measurable perfect. It's just an aesthetic thing. So make it look the way you want it to look. Just trying to get the raw edges off. Try to keep it straight. As long as we're working on this end, let's go ahead and put a couple of holes in here. So find our center punch marks that we made deep enough so we could do this. Cool that punch so it doesn't get deformed. Now keep in mind that that upset is proud of that surface, and if you bring it all the way to the face of the anvil, you're going to have an issue here. So hang it over the edge. And we'll work back from the other side again to finish this off. That leaves us our first bolt hole. If you've never hot punched any holes, go back and watch the video from the other day on hot punching. Now you could certainly drill these holes, but I thought it would be fun to do a project without the power tools. No drilling, no grinding, no band saws. All of the stock, well, this one piece of a backplate can be done entirely with a hacksaw or cut hot at the anvil. And of course we cut our hooks hot at the anvil. Before I punch these holes, I'm going to chamfer the edge on this end. Make sure it's flat again and straight. Again, we have to worry about that upset on this hole. So we're going to do this in 3 passes. Now I think this 1/4 inch material is heavy enough that we don't need to worry about a bolster for punching 1/4 inch. Those ends of those hooks were probably less than a 1/16, and that starts to really matter. So this is our last hole to punch. Now it just so happens that when we rivet this, we don't want the rivets holding this away from the wall. So we want flat countersunk rivets, which means we should take this to the drill press and countersink it. But if we're trying to do this just because we can without power tools, I'm going to use a ball-end punch and create a little countersink in the back of each of these, just so there's some place for the rivet head to go. You need to make sure this is still a 1/4 inch round so you can get your 1/4 inch rivet in, and they are. That's a bolt, but same diameter. And we'll do that one last time from the back. Yep, wrong punch. And that creates a recess that we can put a flush head rivet in so this doesn't rock on the wall when you put it in. Now if there's some reason this looks like it's got an upside and a downside, and it doesn't really matter to me, this is the time to decide, because I'm going to go put my touch mark in it. I don't want my touch mark upside down in the finished product. So I'll put my last name and a bear paw. These stamps came from Henry Evers Stamp Company. I believe they're online as Evers Stamp. You'll have to send them the artwork, and they can make just about anything. That's most of the forge work. We have our 3 hooks to hang the tools from. We have a nice back plate that we will rivet these to. The only thing missing at this point are a couple of bolts, and I just happen to have some square head bolts here that I will chamfer the edges on to make them look better to hang this from. That should complete all the forging for this project. Let's go put it together. So our hooks have a little bit of a rag on top in a lot of cases from where we cut it. So just a few strokes with a file is about all that takes. And then I like to file just a slight bevel on there. So we'll need to do that with all 3 hooks. And you also want to check and make sure that your rivet fits. This one doesn't quite. So if we take our punch and our bolster plate that we used earlier, we can probably stretch that just enough cold. And I'm only doing this in the vise because I happen to be set up at the vise with the camera. I would typically do it at the anvil. So now our rivet fits. Make sure you flatten the back. Yep, my rivet fits. You'll need to check all the holes in the back plate too to make sure that fits. So all of the holes in the back plate fit. Looks like we can enlarge this one a little bit for the bolt to go through. And we've got these all chamfered on the back with that ball-end punch, so there's a place to set a flathead rivet. You know, just like we took the burrs off of the hook, make sure there's no sharp spots on this back plate. And that feels pretty good. I don't think there's anything anybody's going to cut themselves on. So it's time to assemble this. We have all of our pieces. I actually ended up with 5 hooks because I did a few test hooks before we started the video. So I went through and I picked the 3 that I think go together the best. And I'm going to use those 3. One of them is a hair longer, so I'll put that in the center of the piece. And the other 2 will go on the ends. Now you can make this as precise as you want. I wouldn't go too free-form because it starts to look funny. But I think this one's going to look just fine. So now we need to go rivet the rivets, head the rivets, peen the rivets, whatever you want to call it. Well, it looks like once again I forgot to turn the microphone back on. So we're just going to set all 3 rivets for all 3 hooks. Put it in a rivet header to protect the rivet head, and just a regular old cross peen hammer, mostly with the face. You might need to use the peen of the hammer just a little bit to help spread that into the countersink. And that's really about all there is to it. Make sure the hook stays straight before you tighten it up. And do that 2 more times. There's another project completed and ready to go out the door. This one isn't ordered by anybody. It will be available for sale over on my Etsy shop. So let's take a look at what we've done here. We have made a poker from a single piece with a split point, no forge welding. We have made a shovel with a similar handle, similar twist with a ring, a separate piece, and it's riveted together. The broom, hand tied by a broom maker, so we've coordinated with another craftsperson to make the broom. We've done a little bit of pipe forging, and we've done just a little bit of torch welding, which is a bit modern. The rack we made today to hang all of this on is done entirely at the forge and anvil. This is not machined. We didn't use the drill press or a hand drill. We did all hot punching. We cut the hooks off hot on the Hardy. You don't have to have machinery to do a lot of this stuff. This is a great little project, and this rack is a standalone project. This could be a little coat hook. It can be used for the kids to hang their backpacks on after school. If you make this smaller and use much smaller hooks, you can do the hook for your car keys. Lots of different uses for a little set of hooks like this. This by itself makes an excellent Christmas gift. Really had fun doing this project. I hope you have fun making something similar. It doesn't have to be exactly like this. It doesn't have to be the same size. Different starting material. Use your imagination. At some point we will do other fireplace tools. We will do some very simple ones that might be a little bit more obtainable, and we will do something more complicated at some point. So get out, make some tools, make yourself a set of hooks for whatever purpose you need, whether it's to hang your fireplace tools, your existing tools, tools in the shop, coats, hats, backpacks, keys, laundry bags, heck, garden rakes, whatever you need. This set of hooks is a very useful project all by itself. I'm glad you stopped by. I'm glad we got to finish this. Again, it's available on my Etsy shop. I will probably have it listed just before I publish this video, so it should be there, and I'll put a link right here to the Etsy shop, and there's a clickable link down in the description of the video. As always, I appreciate the thumbs up. Love it if you hit the subscribe button. If you feel like donating financially to the channel to help fund the cost of doing these videos, there is a link to my PayPal down in the description. There is no obligation. The content is always free, and you are not expected to leave any kind of a tip. But if you feel like it, I do appreciate it. Get out to the shop, make something, stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you next time.